From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
and this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by
Vitamin energy. The vitamins.
The energy.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. Coming up on today's show, Mike Norvell's got one goal this season. Well, two, win games, but get the edge back. Leaders, are they starting to emerge? And a weekend recap of the women's sports scene for Florida State athletics. Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com. Shake it, take it, sip the juice. The world's first and only clinically proven energy shot. Gonna get my week started off with a little Workout Plus, little sour apple, 260 milligrams all natural caffeine, but I'm going to go back to 130-ish. Going to take about half the shot. Going to enjoy it. Going to profit in the gym. Gains coming my way. Anything that you want can come your way. Better gains, better focus, better mood. It's all there. VitaminEnergy.com. Noles behind the whole operation. Check it out. Shake it and take it. VitaminEnergy.com. Warchant.com. Ultimate Seminole sports source. Thumbs up, reviews, subscriptions. Show some form of appreciation for what all of us are doing over at warchant.com. Shout out to Matt Lasser this past weekend, grinding for us down in Orlando, hanging out the Nike Coaches Clinic where all the coordinators and Mike Norvell spoke, and then there was a Seminole Booster Tour kicked off down in Orlando. So we'll be talking plenty about that here in today's show. So shout out to Matt, shout out rather. I hope I didn't say anything else besides shout out to Matt for doing all of that. And Corey Clark here now, everybody. Corey, I trust you're doing well.
I am, buddy. Thanks for asking. Had a fun weekend. Good weekend.
Okay. So in full disclosure, maybe we'll rendezvous later on and talk about the Super Bowl, but we decided to go ahead and talk about whatever we have to talk about before the Super Bowl commences because, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Unless Josh Sweat causes a fumble that ends up winning the game.
Or Johnny Wilson has the game-winning touchdown catch.
Or that. Yeah. Fair. Those are all possibilities. Probably this will be it for the show. So I guess let's get right down to it, Corey. The big buzzword, I guess, from Saturday down in Orlando was edge. Yeah. Norvell spoke in front of a whole bunch of high school coaches at the Nike Coaches Clinic and kind of spoke about urgency, having his guys play with a level of desperation, and that's kind of what he's really trying to focus on this offseason. I want to go ahead and play some of the sound bites from him and kind of get your thoughts about what he's kind of maybe trying to illustrate and just how reasonable it is to try to extract this from the roster this year. So we'll commence with this one.
I want that edge. I want guys that are willing to put everything that they have into the opportunity to be the best that they can be. And I think we've seen that example in guys before that that have been on the big stage, that have had all the attention, that have benefited from what this game can provide, but they show up desperate to be the best and desperate to get the job done and for it to look a certain way, and that's what we're going to get back to. And it takes every person, but really what we can control is ourselves. And I want that edge, and I do believe you can recruit it. I believe you can develop it, and you definitely have to be able to hold each other accountable to living it, and that's my focus.
All right, Corey, how would you define the edge?
There was I think, wasn't there an Edge movie with Alec Baldwin and who's the guy that played Hannibal Lecter?
Anthony Hopkins?
Yeah, I think they were in a movie called The Edge back in the mid-'90s.
Okay, let me see if I can find out.
I could be wrong about that. I know there's The Cutting Edge, which was the figure skating movie. But yeah, The Edge, I don't know, man. It sounds to me like a buzzword. I thought the more interesting sound bites, or at least the quotes I read over the weekend, were about, on him, like him taking responsibility for losing his edge. And that I can get behind. Looking for edge, it's like, I don't that's so nebulous, it's hard to define. You need really good players, and they need to practice hard and play hard. If that means they have an edge, then so be it. I mean, or do you want an edge like Patrick Beverley in the NBA? He plays with an edge, but he's not very good. I want my guys to you have an edge, that's fine, however you define that. But be good, too, and be coached well, and be coordinated well, and know what they're doing. Do all that with some urgency. That's fine. And if we want to define that as an edge, let's do it. I do think it's telling that he's kind of like, as he revisits the season because he has to talk to people that matter and, kind of pay his salary, he has to come up with a reason why it was so bad other than we sucked last year. So coming up with a word like edge, I'm looking for edge, I mean, that implies kind of, doesn't it, that it didn't matter to him last year? Like, isn't he always looking for players with edge?
Yeah. Maybe this kind of dovetails into the second thing that he said that we can probably just go ahead and get to right now, Corey. Let me get your thoughts.
Did you look up the movie?
The Edge, 1997, Anthony Hopkins, Alec Baldwin, and Elle Macpherson.
Oh, the great Elle Macpherson. Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
An
nice.
intellectual billionaire and two other men struggle to band together and survive after getting stranded in the Alaskan wilderness with a bloodthirsty Kodiak bear hunting them down.
Oh, man, how did I miss that?
I don't know. But
I knew the movie. For some reason, that tagline didn't get me to the theater.
Yeah. Well, we know what movie they're going to be watching at UNF in the dorms in August. So
That's right. It's going to be on repeat. Just Anthony Hopkins and Alec Baldwin.
Yeah, I don't know how much, not that he was deflecting accountability, but in terms of trying to give us the reasons maybe why he was lacking it, I don't know how much of that he really dove into. But this is another sort of related topic when kind of asked about what he's looking for. And I guess maybe more important to a lot of people as we try to finally put a bow on what happened last year, maybe some insight into what happened last year.
I've been a head coach now 9 years, and there were times last year, it was really the first time since I've been a head coach where we would play, and it wasn't like guys weren't trying, but there wasn't that edge that I've become accustomed to. All my teams really have, and it is it's something we have to get back to, and I didn't do a good enough job of almost forcing that edge. We have 31 newcomers that joined the program in January. We got a bunch of guys, another handful of guys that will be coming in the summer, and that was absolutely something I was looking for. And I think there's times that you can get caught up by potential and talent, but you got to make sure that the mentality is right. And I want the mentality.
We talked a little bit about this. I feel like, Corey, just what he had built through the transfer portal, I think, created this aura of inevitability rather, that, if he picked you and you showed up here, like it was game over. Like, all right, I've kind of made it. I'll do what he tells me. I'm surrounded by whatever system he's created. He's got his magic fairy dust, and off we go. So, again, to his point about he thought they still practice hard, it looked, they did the same drills they had done in 2023. Nobody seemed to be kind of loafing in the drills. Now, were they performed as cleanly, as neatly as they had been in 2023? No. No. But, I guess when he talks about him not pushing guys maybe as much as he had in the past, possibly, I think earlier in the interview he mentioned that, there's distractions out there for kids in terms of NIL. And he's like, there's distractions out there for 43-year-old men as well that are coaches. So, maybe some more insights into what happened last year and how he's going to rectify it this season.
Yeah, I think something else about last year, he's never coached a team like that. He's never coached a team he's always coached a bunch of hungry dudes and dudes that are trying to prove themselves. At Memphis, that's every year. Nobody takes Memphis seriously. I'm not taking a shot there, but they're never considered a blue blood or a football program. The guys that end up at Memphis typically aren't guys that were recruited by big boy programs. And the teams he built the back of his run on, the players he built the back of his run on, those weren't most of those guys weren't high profile picks. You had Western Michigan, Albany, a Louisville transfer at quarterback. Johnny Wilson was let go at Arizona State. They didn't care. Trey Benson was let go. They didn't care. All those offensive linemen, none of them were real big-time recruits coming out of high school. So he coached a lot of hungry guys that were always trying to prove themselves. Then last year comes, and you have a bunch of dudes that think they've already arrived. They think they're on third base and think they hit a triple, and they hadn't earned it. They're at Florida State, but they're not building Florida State. They think they're joining an already ready-made program. And I think there's a different mindset that comes with that. I just do. I think when you have a transfer that joins a 13-0 team versus a transfer that joins a 5-7 team, there is a different mindset there. They think they're joining some. And that's me positing a theory. But I think there's something to it that, or otherwise, why would I say it, folks? That I think that when you're coaching a team full of 2-star, 1-star, 3-star, no-star guys and trying to build themselves up and make them a good team, a great team, NFL draft picks. Again, Jarian Jones, Renardo Green, go down the line. Nobody knew these guys. Then you come on the next year. You got all these guys that went to Alabama. It didn't go well for them, but they still think they're really good players. They want to go somewhere else with it. And I just think you're bringing in a different type of kid. And you didn't have enough good players underneath them to rise the level of all ships. The rising tide thing. You didn't have their backups and your freshmen and your underclassmen that were trying to become good and become starters weren't good enough because you hadn't recruited enough at a high level high school wise, or hadn't developed them well enough when they were here that you were left with that mess. You had guys that simply weren't good enough, and you had other guys that thought they had already arrived, and in reality they hadn't accomplished much at all. And I think there's a mindset, and it's on Norvell because he better figure out how to deal with this, because we're all hoping that next year in 2025 they win 8, 9, or 10 games, and then you better make darn sure that the team after that is still going to work hard and knows they haven't done jack squat. I just felt like that 2024 team, just the way, in hindsight, again, we loved it and applauded it when it was said back in July, but the way Josh Farmer and Patrick Payton and Daryl who else was at Media Day?
It was Darius Washington, Patrick Payton, and Joshua Farmer.
But mainly Farmer and Payton in the way they talked about how we're going to be even better, and we're mad that we're going to prove all these guys wrong, and they all the things they said that were so not outlandish, that's not the right word, just very filled with confidence. And that's fine that they're confident and they think that. But, man, in reality, Peyton and Josh Farmer aren't Braden Fisk and Jared Verse, but they carried themselves like they were. And I feel like they're kind of microcosms for the entire team. They thought they were better than they were. And when they got slapped in the face and reality slapped them in the face, they responded not at all. There was it just wasn't a very that team didn't have a lot of strong willpower and no leadership. And I feel like Norvell got caught up in it a little bit. He got caught up in that he had built something that was on the tracks and going down the tracks and sailing along, again, to mix metaphors. And he got slapped with a dose of reality too. So I like that he's saying this. It's not like, okay, I'm mad that it took him that long. It took him this long to figure it out, or he didn't realize this ahead of time that, this is going to be a whole different beast coming off 13-0 in ACC championship. The thing that I guess I appreciate about his comments, because I'm not going and relitigating that team last year. It was dreadful. It was disgraceful, and it's his fault. But that when he has another good season or two, he doesn't let this happen again. He now knows what to look for, the red flags, the warning signs to look for to make sure this doesn't happen again. And yeah, man, go get players that fit I want 5 stars, and I want future NFL first-round draft picks. That's what we all want. But if you can't get those guys, get guys that are at least 5th-round draft picks, and we'll play hard. And I feel like he learned his lesson in a really painful way this past season.
I think the tough thing for us and everybody that's listening to this podcast, though, Corey, is going to be that what we saw on the surface, and I don't want to call what they did at practice the surface because that's like foundational of who they were, but everything we saw from them at practice, man, he's yelling at guys, he's imploring guys, he's pushing guys really hard. So the only thing that could possibly change is the way that he's pushing them, I guess, behind the scenes, like in meetings. I know there's, they've got some accountability group stuff that they're working on, but I mean, those are the kind of things that underpin your success on the field, but we're not going to be able to really see that. So I don't know how we really can't judge how more effective he's going to be in pushing these guys and finding his edge until we're, 4 games into the season, really? Unless they beat Alabama convincingly, clearly, right?
Yeah, but yes, true. But I think it's not so much even – they're going to practice hard, man. And again, this is a different team where, these guys all are coming in trying to earn a spot. I don't think these linebackers think they've absolutely got a guaranteed starting spot. There aren't – who on the defense other than Darrell Jackson and Shaheem know they're going to start? None of them, right? I don't think. Maybe I'm missing someone. I think that's right, though. I think all starting spots on the defense are up for grabs. That, to me, is a very big deal. When it comes to the games themselves, like there has to be repercussions for quite obviously not playing hard. Like you don't get to get on the field then, man. If you're going to protect yourself or come and run and just tap the pile and never push anybody back, and if you're trying to get to the quarterback and you don't get a first move, a quick move, and the tackle's there, you don't just stand up and stand there. You can do that, that's fine, but you'll be standing on the sideline next to me. There has to be messages sent. And also the offensive line. If you're going to continue to get pummeled and humiliated and never, ever, ever push anybody out of the way, I can go get a freshman to do that. So you don't get to play either just because we won a lot of games with you already. Like, I just feel like there wasn't the accountability the coaches held to the players in game to make guys play hard. They were allowed to play at 70% or 80% or take a few plays off and still get out there. That should never be the case. And hopefully it won't be this year. Hopefully, we know he's going to yell at guys in practice. Are they going to have, and I think they will, but are they going to have the cojones to pull a guy off in the middle of a drive?
No.
To say, nope, that's not good enough. You're coming out. I'm tired of watching that. Get your mind right, play hard, or stand over there. And I just hope – same with blocking. If you can't block someone on the perimeter – wide receivers. If you're not going to block someone on the wide receivers, you're not on the sideline, you're not playing. So, hopefully I think that message, the edge that he's talking about, yeah, you want to go get those guys that are hungry, but make them play hungry in the game too. Don't just say, well, they played well at practice. Okay, well, that was 10 plays where he didn't try as hard as. No, those should be the last 10 plays he plays that game or that season. So I think Norvell learned a lot of value because at Memphis you don't have to coach that, do you? You don't have to coach guys to play hard. None of those guys think they've arrived. None of those guys think they're second-round picks. They're playing for their lives, and they care. And then he was really lucky that his best players at Florida State the last 2 years all kind of had a similar They all had a similar
profile. Yeah.
Profile that they weren't highly recruited. They weren't 5-star superstars, and so that automatically gives a guy an edge, and it's an edge that think about the edge that Jared Verse had for 4 years. Thinking he was better than he was. Nobody recruited him. He was a tight end going to Albany, having to prove himself there. That's ingrained now. Same with Fisk. Same with Renardo Green. That guy had been counted out. Jarian Jones, these guys have been counted out, and they were the only ones that believed in themselves, and they kept coming back, and they believed in themselves, changed positions, and that character trait is just ingrained. And you don't have to beg Jarian Jones or Renardo Green or Braden Fisk to play hard. That's how they're wired. They wired themselves that way because they were never super-duper stars. But some guys that think they're in the portal and they were 5-star guys and they're not happy with their playing time, they're wired a certain way where it's almost like they're doing you a favor by letting you coach, by letting you be on their team. And hopefully these guys, they got some high-profile transfer portals. We all know that, and some high-profile recruits. Hopefully the culture is such that none of these guys think they've arrived. And if they do think they've arrived when they haven't, then somebody on that team or that coaching staff, multiple somebodies, will put them in their place real quick.
He'll never be able to say that they missed on guys. And listen, I mean, there's all these Alabama guys, quote unquote, like, Malik Benson. I don't think they told Malik Benson to leave, but, TJ Ferguson's still here. He's talking really effusively about Roydell Williams. I know Sean Murphy left, but he'll never say that, we made misses. But when he talks about you can coach and mold these guys that have the edge, but you can also recruit it, is that him kind of admitting that maybe they realized that the guys they had last year did not have it, but they figured, we can probably just program them, but you need to have, like you're talking about, this just chip, this sort of baseline level of competitive spirit in you that, maybe they overlooked last year in some of the guys they took.
Maybe, and I think also with like Roydell in particular. I mean, he was hurt. Let's be honest, he got injured. I'm not going to sit here and say he doesn't play hard or doesn't play with an edge. Maybe he's just not that good. He's just he's a decent college running back, nothing special. Sean Murphy just isn't that good. So he could play with the I think the miss on those guys and a few of those, and TJ Ferguson too, quite frankly, I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. He's still on the team. Is they just weren't good enough. Whether they played hard or not, they just weren't good enough. I was kind of more worried. I'm more upset and point fingers at the guys that were holdovers. There was just no culture established. Yeah. There just wasn't. I think your two most talented players were Patrick Payton, who, is what he is. On defense, I'm talking about. I guess you would throw Farmer and Jackson in there. But those are quiet kids, man. And they didn't play very well to start the season. At least Darrell Jackson didn't. But your four best players on defense were Darrell Jackson and Josh Farmer, who are not real talkative guys. Patrick Payton, who's his own entity. And Azareye'h Thomas, who's very talented, but I wouldn't say he's like a natural leader.
Yeah.
So where is it coming from? Your linebackers were all either average or inexperienced and trying to learn their way and feel their way. And Shaheem didn't have a good season. He should be the guy, but he didn't have a good enough season. And there was no real accountability, and there was no culture created by the players. Norvell's Norvell, man. Norvell's Norvell. The coaching staff was the exact same. So we can and should blame him for what happened because it is his watch. It's his fault, and you've got to have a temperature of your team to know, okay, there is no leadership here. There is a leadership void that has to be filled. Who is going to fill it? We need multiple guys. We need a leadership council. We need promissory notes. We need something to happen. But also the players, the veteran holdovers, they just didn't do – they did a poor job. And that obviously goes to the offensive line too. Those guys did nothing. No leadership at all. And it's almost like they're programmed not to be leaders. They go in their corner. They go work with their coach. He yells at them. It's like they're their own thing. And almost like a separate part of the offense until they do the 11-on-11 stuff, which is fine. I know that's how most teams practice. But also, like, they're so led by their coach. It was such a coach-led group.
Right.
Don't you think?
Yeah, it wasn't player-led at all.
It wasn't player-led at all, and it just needed some player leadership. And I really, really think as we've talked to Pettis and we've talked to Pettibone. I think that's it so far from the linemen. Don't you feel like, Aslan, that just talking to those two guys, that it could be and should be a much more player-led group?
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to dog the guys that left because, Maurice had been here and done so much, and, Darius was really selfless and played all across the offensive line. But, yeah, I just think, Jordan made everybody look better. He wasn't there, obviously, last year. And then, you get to a certain point where things were running pretty well for the better part of 24, 25 games, whatever it was. And then, nobody had even the experience to pull guys out of the ditch, right? Because Maurice and Darius were here in 2019 when everything was terrible. They really kind of, they drafted behind the guys like Dylan Gibbons and, just the changes that were made overall and Jordan kind of blossoming. And it's like, nobody, they didn't take the bull by the horns and change anything. I'm not putting any blame on them, but, then they ended up being like the oldest guys on the team. And everybody's looking at them and they're like, well, that's kind of not who they were. But to your point, I think Micah Pettis and Pettibon, they're definitely those guys that embrace that. We'll talk more about leadership as we pivot off of Edge, but we do need to talk about the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, everybody. CPTallybar.com, the website, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. Daily lunch specials from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Only $8.99 comes with a side dish of your choice. Happy hour weekdays from 4 to 7 and then all day Sunday, everybody. That's right. Can't believe it. But that's how they roll at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Trivia on Tuesday at 7 p.m. Bingo Thursdays, 7 p.m. 4 rounds, $250 cash money up for grabs in each single round. Live music on the weekends. And apparently on the website says open dart tournament on Saturday nights.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Throw some darts, shoot some pool, ice cold beer, any beverage, screens everywhere.
Any beverage except like old fashions.
Yeah.
They don't do things with bitters. They'll make some cocktails, but they're not going to do anything crazy fancy. Go to a rooftop bar if you want that nonsense. But beer, wine, normal liquor, it's all Seltzers. There. And again, the food is remarkable.
Top notch.
Yeah,
absolutely. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. We're back. It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com. Shake it and take it. Leadership, Corey. We got lots of questions on leaderships. Who's going to be the leaders? And they'll figure it out. They clearly did not figure it out. But as Mike said, his focus is on trying to push these guys and have somebody emerge. He was asked, I guess, kind of about how winter workouts have looked. He mentioned Earl Little's a guy that's done really well, and he's proud of the way that he's performed. Roy Dell's a guy that he mentioned. And then he had this to say about Daryl Jackson. Why don't you give it a listen?
Daryl Jackson, I mean, I thought, you guys weren't there, but like yesterday's workout for Daryl Jackson, I grabbed him afterwards, and I just told him how much I respected his work. Daryl made the choice to come back, and he knows what he's fighting for. He knows what he wants this year to be for a team, for an individual. And yesterday, we found some challenging moments for him, and his leadership was extraordinary. Didn't say a whole lot of words, but I mean his action and just his response. And like when you have, it's easy to spot 6'6", 330, but when you see a guy in a very difficult situation to what he's being asked to do, maybe because of others at times, and I mean it was such a perfect moment for our team. And I grabbed him afterwards, like, man, that is what's going to make you the best defensive lineman in the country because of the response then. And so when you have those situations that you try to create, that's. Anybody can stand in front of a team and give a quick speech, right? But I mean, those are the things that we need to see in the moment. And when you have those top players that are embracing that moment where it's not always good for them, but they're getting to show how to respond to it. I mean, that can really do wonders.
I mean, I think sometimes you need a guy to yell at people and say, "Follow me." But I guess when your best player is going to do things along the lines of what Norvell said, that is going to make you then, strain and then hopefully find that edge. And hopefully that's the last time I say that word today.
That'd be, maybe for the month.
Yeah, hit my allotment on that one.
Well, unless you watch the movie. You need to tell us if you like the movie or not.
Right.
I think that it's good to hear. When he says things like a challenging situation and a difficult situation as they're talking about tour of duty, I'm like, what could that mean? Like, did one of his teammates screw up, and then the whole position group had to do like 20 up downs or something at the end, or sprint 200 yards back and forth? Like, what does that mean? I wish he'd go into detail about that. Like, what kind of leadership is he talking about? But yeah, they need to challenge him because he's a workout freak, and. Look, I know people might roll their eyes when they say that when they hear him talk about the best defensive lineman in the country. Daryl Jackson has not proven to be that yet. He hasn't really even been close. I don't know if he's gotten any all-conference votes yet. There have been moments, though, folks. We've watched it, where he is really, really good. It was not consistent enough. It was not long enough this past year. But he has proven that he can be darn near unblockable when he's playing well. He's very, very good. So I don't think Norvell says that lightly, but I know we're a little trepidatious because he said Darius Washington could be the best tackle in the country.
No, he's going to be an All-American.
Yeah, around. Well, that's one of the best.
Yeah, true.
And that didn't prove to be prophetic this past year. So you might roll your eyes a little, but look, man, Daryl Jackson, is he's the anchor of that defense, man. They're counting on him to do a lot, and if he can stay healthy and play well, like be good, that changes everything. It's a guy in the middle of the line that, like he just said, is 6'6", 330, and yeah, can be a leader, a different kind of leader, But again, I know we don't. I was just talking about like quiet guys. I'm okay with a quiet guy that dominates. The quiet guys that are just well, that does nobody any good. Like, at least Jeremiah Byers, who wasn't very good here, he wasn't great by any means. He was a pretty vocal guy. Yeah. For one of the offensive linemen anyway. But it's when your best players, all of them are quiet, and your quarterback is quiet, that's where the trouble lies. And it seems to me that they've got – but the point being, I don't want it to sound like I'm talking out both sides of my mouth. Daryl Jackson, be a quiet leader all you want, but be awesome.
Yes.
Lead that way. Be awesome. Yeah. Be quiet if you want. Yeah, you can be loud and okay, or you can be quiet and be awesome. Those are your two options, Daryl. Choose one. Choose the latter, please.
All right. Lots of awesome notes again from the speeches that Norvell gave in front of the coaches at the clinic in Orlando. Last thing I want to mention on that, Corey, was that he kind of took some. I don't want to minimize it, but I wasn't there and I didn't actually hear him say it, so I don't want to like put too much emphasis on his words or whatever. But he said, and this is according to Matt's transcription, that one aspect that stood out for Mike was that he could do better was his body language, said he allowed his frustration to affect it. I felt my body language sucked at times. I'm being very transparent. I allowed frustration to affect my body language. I kind of hinted at some of that stuff, and we would talk about it after we do some practice observations. I don't know, man. Like, he was doing that in the midst of them being like 2-6, 2-7, or 1-6, 1-7. So, I mean, I don't know how much that's going to bother you as a player to see your coach visibly distraught at how bad you're performing. But I guess, I'll give him credit for thinking that that's going to be something that he needs to work on and can help his team out. So, I mean, because any little bit's going to help a team that went 2-10 last year.
Yeah, I think he wears his emotions on his sleeve. That's pretty dang obvious. I think the only issue really I had with his body language, because I don't know how much the players are looking at him like during a game necessarily, like they're looking at their teammates or looking at the game itself. Maybe in film, like for instance, the SMU play where Morlock drops the pass somehow, and it then becomes basically a pick six for SMU when it should have been a 25-yard gain. Mike Norvell did not have good body language on that one. He almost, I think he went to a knee and like collapsed onto a knee, which when they're watching the film back afterwards, that's probably doesn't make Morlock feel real confident. But again, sorry, Kyle, catch the ball. Like it wasn't just that
we're coming out the half. We're coming out the half. It's still kind of a ball game.
Kind of a ball game. They're down 5 and they're got the ball and they're about to be in midfield if he just catches it, and instead he gives SMU a touchdown. So I get, and they're already 1-3 at that point, I think, right? So it's like it just felt like the world was collapsing, and so I get the bad body language. What I didn't like all that much, and I hope he does get a little bit better about this. Again, I know who I'm talking about. He's very happy when things are going well, very angry when he needs to be, but when they would lose and he would come in, and it was like he had lost a family member. And I'm not joking. I'm not trying to be flippant. He looked devastated. Yeah. Devastated. Even when they for the 7th loss and the 8th loss, he looked not only devastated but like confused about what was going on. Yes, like surprised. Like, I can't believe this happened. It's like, how can you not believe this happened? Yeah. You've watched your team, man. So
he was like that in 22 though. When they lost to like Wake and Clemson and NC State, he was very, very dour.
Yeah, agreed. But it's like, to be so surprised by it and so devastated, it doesn't. There's not a lot of confidence that fans can gain in you, in their coach, when he looks confused about what's happening. He doesn't have answers, which clearly if he had answers, he wasn't going to find them in October. And if he had answers, he would have been using them. But he's so crushed.
Yeah, it's funny because all these recruits, new guys, the guys that have been here forever, like, you see how he is. He's always the same. He's always energetic. He's got all this energy, which is true, I'm sure, like in meetings, around campus, at practice, in the locker room. But then, like, if you watch his post-game press conference, you're just like, what? Like, what happened to the whole, we're going to get back at it on Sunday through our walkthrough and we're going to be all right? Like, what happened to that guy? Because the guy that's up there is, playing on the Titanic.
And so it just his emotions I thought were that body language when he'd walk into a press conference, and again that's the closest I got to his body language on game day, so that's all I can really talk to. It was sad and confused. That was the body language I got, and I don't know how much fans want to see that every single Saturday. Anger, defiance, apologetic, but in like a confident way. I think that was because, again, I don't think that body language when he just looks like he's been run through the ringer and he looks exhausted and sad, that maybe doesn't exude the type of confidence and leadership you're trying to exude. And maybe it's just for our benefit. And in the locker room, he's tearing paint off the walls, dog cuss him. Then he comes out, he's like, I don't know, credit to Miami, they played well. However he is behind the scenes, but the public face after a game and after a bad loss, it didn't strike me as the type of every week. It didn't strike me as the right approach to take.
All right, next up,
but get better players and you'll have better body language. That's how it works, Mike. You know the drill. Yeah. Get a better football team. I promise your body language won't be a big deal.
Mike, back at it today in Pensacola. I think there's tickets still available. Seminole Boosters on tour out there in Pensacola. So I'm sure what he's telling everybody out there, fans, is probably different than what he's telling the media. So go out there and listen to your head coach and see what he's got to say about your team coming up this season. I don't know exactly where it's at. Sanctuary, is that a place in Pensacola? I'm looking at all the Sanctuary event venue. The Sanctuary event venue in Pensacola, 716 North 9th Avenue, Pensacola, Florida. So go check them out. And then also check out warchant.com, the Tribal Council. Lots of notes from the Tony White portion of his clinic speech to the coach at the Nike Coaches Clinic. Physicality. I'll leave it at that, everybody. If you like that sort of stuff, Tony White lives, breathes, and demands it. So go check out all the notes that Matt was able to type out after hearing Tony at the clinic. Softball, Corey, didn't get off to the greatest of starts. They dropped their opener against Oklahoma State, but then bounced back and were able to take out, was it Northern Colorado?
Mm-hmm.
And then they came out with a vengeance the rest of the weekend, run ruling Oklahoma State and then taking out Louisiana Tech, I think 2 times, if I'm not mistaken.
They went 4-1 in the tournament, so they won their next 4 after the bad loss. And I say bad loss, it was 9-6, but yeah, they run ruled at least 2 of those games, I guess.
Yeah,
both of them on Saturday. Yeah.
All right, that's where they need to be, right? So good, way to flush it out the system, and along the lines of what we were hoping for this season, right?
Yeah, and the fact that the scores the rest of the way, they gave up the 9 in the first game, and I'm like, oh boy. And then it was 1 run to Northern Colorado. It was 3 runs to Louisiana Tech, and I think all 3 of those runs were unearned. Then 1 run and then no runs. Okay, that's more like it because you know you're going to score. I mean, again, they scored 6 runs, 7, 6, 9, and 8. So their offense is going to be one of the best in the country. We knew that already. If they can pitch like that, they have a really good shot, man. They have a really good shot, and so that was good to see. Good start. And I was thinking about it because there's a player on the team named Kennedy Harp, who actually is from Gwinnett County.
Oh, represent.
From Peachtree Ridge, Devin Vassell's.
Let's go.
And so she was like the number I just looked her up. She was like the number 10 player in the country coming out of high school in 2022. So she was a freshman. So 2023. So she was a freshman on last year's team. And she played in like 50 games, but only had like 20 starts. She was kind of a spot starter. Played here and there, but batted low in the lineup and was used as like a pinch runner, a pinch hitter, defensive replacement kind of thing for a lot of the year, even though she was the number 10 player in the country. Now this year she's starting because she's really good. So they lose players like Flaherty or Mudge or people like that, and they find they have Kennedy Harps waiting for him. And then she had, I think, 3 or 4 triples in that game, had like 7 or 8 RBIs in the tournament. And she's kind of
she's slugging 1,400 right now.
Yeah, not bad, right? And she's kind of an unknown going into this season on the college ranks anyway. She didn't accomplish a ton as a freshman. She showed potential, plenty of it. She had over 300. But she was not a household name like Kerr and Edenfield and Beecham and Torres. But, man, she will be. She's really, really good. And they have a lot of really good players. Katie Dack, you almost forget about her. She was like the big transfer 2 years ago and didn't do a ton. I don't think she got to play a lot last year, and I think she hit 2 or 3 home runs this weekend.
And then McKenna Reed went against Louisiana Tech on Saturday, 4 1/3, scattered 3 hits, only 1 run. So they'll need her obviously to carry some of the weight in the circle. So shout out to Lonnie and the Florida State softball team getting off to a good start out down there in Puerto Vallarta. What's next for them? Are they going down to I need to pull that up real quick here. I think they're going down to my neck of the woods.
I think they go to Clearwater this week coming up.
The old Shriners tournament. That would be correct. They got Missouri, Ohio State, Wichita State, and UCF. So if you're down there in the Clearwater, Tampa area, go over to the Eddie Seymour Complex and go watch the Noles play some really good softball against some really good teams in the Shriners Classic. Basketball, big game for the women's basketball team on Sunday. Showdown against number 14 NC State. I think NC State number 2 in the ACC on the women's side of things, but the Wolfpack kind of jumped on Florida State early in that when they were up 20 at half and really didn't look back, winning 97-74. Tanaya Latson, though, 8 of 19, were 23 points. Kind of did her part. But, man, I think all starters for NC State were in double figures, so that's going to be tough to overcome.
Yeah, that was kind of a gross game. I think they're still obviously comfortably in the tournament, but that could have been a big win for seeding purposes, and they never really made it a game. And look, their ceiling is only so high because of the defense, and they lead the nation in scoring. They have the nation's leading scorer, so they're going to play up and down games, and they want to make it a fast game. They want a bunch of possessions. They know the other team's going to score a lot. The defense wasn't good enough, and then they couldn't. They just didn't score like they normally do, and so they never really had a chance. NC State's not like 23 points better than they are. It's just basketball. Sometimes you have weird, bad days, and that was Florida State's, which was a bummer because they had been playing really well. They had a lot of momentum going, and they just kind of ran into a brick wall on Saturday. Who do they play next? Do we know?
I didn't have that in front of me.
I'll look it up. I'm on the website right now.
All right.
Oh, they play Louisville.
Oh,
I think Louisville's usually pretty good.
Yeah.
So, they play Louisville Thursday at home.
All right.
And when do the men play again? Did you just say that?
Are they playing today? They should be. I think they're had 8 days off since their last game, so I think my math doesn't fail me. That should be today, later today. As no news on any kind of movement on the Leonard search for the replacement. But actually, no, I totally lied. Wednesday. My God.
Wednesday, Wake Forest. Yeah, I didn't feel today didn't feel right. Wednesday at Wake, and then I think Saturday at home versus Clemson.
How about Clemson taking down Duke? Did
Yeah,
you see them storm? I mean, I'm not saying don't storm the court, but part of the storming the court thing needs to be the organic nature behind it. But that game was clearly over, and I think Duke might have gotten the last shot. And as soon as it didn't go in, there might have been a second or two left. And what's the coach's name from Duke now? What's his name again?
John Shire.
John Shire's like waving the guys off, like, come on, just hurry up. And they didn't realize like which I can't believe they didn't realize what was about to happen when the game was going to go final. But I mean, the Clemson, I don't know if it was a student section, but a massive humanity bum rushes into the Duke bench because the Duke bench is trying to get off as fast as possible. I don't know how to make it still awesome and organic and true to the spirit of joy and these kids having fun, which I don't want to take away from them. Man, Caitlin Clark last year got clipped by somebody when they charged.
That was the dumbest court storming in history. It was like one girl running and didn't see Caitlin Clark. She had her head turned and tripped over.
But, I mean, not that I feel bad for Duke, but it could have got a little bad there. And Brownell was like still trying to go over and shake his hand. I was like, it's fine, man. You don't have to be.
Yeah, go in the bowels. Go in the tunnel and shake his hand afterward. Go to his locker room. You don't have to shake his hand right there.
Give him a phone call or something. All right, and don't forget, Florida State baseball opening day is Friday for the baseball team as they try to get back to Omaha, taking on James Madison. That's at 5 o'clock. So I think we'll speak to Link on Thursday. We're also going to speak to football players on Thursday. But before Thursday is Tuesday, and we'll be speaking to, drum roll.
One of the linemen, right? The UCF guy.
Javen Boggs, Gunnar Hansen, Chase Laughlin, and Adrian Medley. So
we get two of the linemen. Okay,
yeah.
all right.
So I think that means we'll have spoken to the projected starting offensive line, other than I guess Richie Leonard or TJ Ferguson.
Richie Leonard. Yeah, you're right. You're right, buddy.
Or our guy Rizzy from Harvard. So all that going down over on warchant.com, and then I would imagine that Seminole Headlines is coming on Tuesday again.
Yeah. We got to record them on Tuesdays now because the player interviews are smack dab in the middle of the 1 to 3 window. So we record them in the morning. But yeah, we should have headlines on Tuesday, and we're Warchant, wake up Warchants whenever you guys want them or need them, or we feel like doing them, which is pretty much every day or every other day. We're gonna be around, and then before you know it, spring practice will be here.
Yeah, that's right. All right, that's a wrap for us. Thanks for listening. Jeff Cameron Show, 1 to 4 o'clock, warchant.com, all the time around the clock. For Corey Maslon, thanks for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com.